Wouldn't you just love to get an endorsement by a local doctor or virtually, if that's how you practice, one of the top doctors in the field where you're serving that unique niche that they see a lot of patients in that niche? Wouldn't it be great if they endorsed you and what you did? I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to She Means Fitness Business, and this episode is all about just that. How do you get those relationships started with doctors, and what mistakes might you have made in the past that maybe make you want to swing the bat again to get better results this time? You're listening to She Means Fitness Business, and this is a vision of my business, Voice for Fitness, where we share information with health coaches, fitness professionals, so that they can grow their business and potentially grow their business doing exactly what we do at Flipping 50, which is help women over 40 in any stage of menopause get and keep their muscle, their bone, and their brain health. By having created the Flipping 50 Menopause Fitness Specialist and helping trainers and coaches who are heart-centered and with the right knowledge learn how to market and sell without being sleazy, salesy, or pushy. Look, I've been in your shoes. I started over. I gutted not just my business, but my life at 49. And I started over with zero coming in, just about zero coming in, and a lot more going out. In fact, after 11 months of that, I put my house up for sale. I moved 2 states away before my house was even up for contract and truly started over. Look, I know what I share works because I went from zero revenue to 6-figure months. And I had years where I was hoping I would reach that point again. So if I can do it, you can do it. I'm a small town girl from the Midwest, and although I'd boast that's a great place to be from, no matter where you're from, you can do this too. But here's what it's going to take: your ability to market and sell without feeling like it's sleazy, without feeling like it's awkward. And you've got to realize that what it is that you do has great value. And we're not selling 12 sessions or a package of 20. What we're selling is transformation, and you need to learn how to present offers that make sense. If that all sounds good to you, before you do anything else, I want you to go to fitnessmarketingmastery.com/scorecard, where you can download an self-assessment. And in about 2 minutes, you'll find where do you have holes in your business where you need to fix them, fill them, so you can grow your business. But look, let's get started with this episode. And here's why I'm hot on this topic right now. I just came back from IRSA, which, if you're not familiar, is, and as you're a personal trainer, potentially and a health coach, you may not be familiar. If you're a studio owner or you're a health and fitness professional who's been around the block for years or decades, now you're very well familiar with this one, but it's the International Health Racket Sports Association. Can you tell how old it is? In fact, just last week in LA at the international conference, they changed the name to Health and Fitness Association. No kidding. That's the truth. So here's the deal. What we found out, we being myself, 2 other physicians, the IRSA representative spokesperson for liaison, really against policy and looking at how can we help our members, and a panel mediator. We did a panel on GLP-1. So if you're less familiar with that term, we're talking Ozempic, we're talking Wegovy. And where is the fitness and medical profession? Where do they come together here? Because without going into this as a deep topic, and if you have questions on this, let me know, because we can certainly go into it. What I found, 2 takeaways from the meeting in my panel was, number one, that most health and fitness pros are really not all that educated on the nuances of GLP-1, what it does, what it can do, what it might do, what threats it might hold, but actually what opportunity it may hold, not only for the patients who choose it, but for health and fitness professionals. The second thing that emerged out of this is exactly this, that fitness and health pros don't know how to develop relationships with medical professionals. I spoke a little bit about this on the panel, and it was because of where the conversation was going. The whole point was, I think we all got really optimistic. What was it, 15 or 20 years ago, when exercise is medicine was a term coined and trademarked by a joint agreement by the American Medical Association and the American College of Sports Medicine. And as well as most of you know who are listening, ACSM, or the American College of Sports Medicine, writes the Bible, the position statements, and always has, for the fitness industry. And they're probably the most highly respected by the medical association because they are the most well-known. They've been the most anchored. They've been the most scientifically based. And many of its members and faculty are doctors, either PhD or MDs on that board. And yet, after all the optimism, when they rolled that program out saying, this is going to be so great, showing images of pads of paper as if they were prescriptions for exercise that docs were going to write, what we realize is that has not happened. And I think we all thought, oh, just wait for it. It's coming. It's coming. They're going to refer to me. But that's not what happened, and it's not going to happen. So if you're clicking your shoes together, Dorothy, there's a better way. Here's how to really click your shoes together. You always had the power before that term was coined and since. And this is how it happens. It happens one trainer, you, and one physician at a time. You need to create a relationship, not with doctors, not with the hospital or the clinic, with one doctor at a time. You need to establish your credibility. You need to develop rapport. You need to just nurture a relationship the same way you would if you were going to start dating someone, or if you were finding a new friend, meeting a new friend for the very first time. What would you do? Well, here's a couple of things. So in order to make this relationship, and for you, know what you want out of it. So that's two things before you even enter into anything about to say or stop doing something you might be doing. That would be a negative. You want to know two things. Number one, what do you want from it? And number two, what are they going to get from it? Because that's what they're asking. What's in it for me? Because physicians are probably always a little leery of litigation, of liability. And, so that's always in the back of their head. If I refer to somebody and my patient gets hurt, what then? Right? And we all know, I hope you know, you are good, you are smart, you are wise. I hope you're here because you are listening to continuing education, you want to grow, and you have the knowledge, you've done it, the certifications, the exams, you've tested, you've done continuing education and continuing education, and you are heart-centered and truly do want to help. And we now have to look at, how do you get in front of them instead of somebody else? We honestly, you and I, have to acknowledge that not everyone in the fitness industry is coming from the head smarts, the heart-centered desire to do good, knowing our scope of practice, knowing where our boundaries are. Not everyone in quote unquote the fitness industry falls into that category. And that makes doctors a little leery. Now, flipping the table just for a moment, we might also say, well, not all doctors are created equal. And that's true. But I think we all just collectively as a nation and maybe as a universal, we put doctors on a pedestal. And there's still a high degree of credibility for a physician, for a doctor. And I think we will see that a lot when someone is a doctor, a PhD, but not an MD. They use that word doctor almost more than a doctor who is a physician because it's almost a marketing term, a descriptor that is worth gold if you've got it. And, here's the thing. I believe you and I could also be doctors if we put in the time and the money in order to do it. Do I think that you're going to be any better off if you had a PhD behind your name? I actually don't, because you would still need to know how to market and to sell. So it's going to always come down to this. So on the grassroots, that's what we're talking about here, is marketing right here, relationships. Marketing is relationships. Relationships are, in a way, marketing. So you want endorsement, right? I mean, basically, if you had the endorsement from a physician who's got the credibility that we all give them or lend to them, and they want to know their patients get a safe referral they can feel good about and that their credibility is supported above all, that you're not going outside of your scope of practice and that you're allowing them to be in on any decisions. They want some of that degree of control. So I want you to realize that. So make it clear what's in it for them. Getting better patient outcomes, isn't that ultimately the goal? And I know you want to say maybe, if a physician retires a patient because they get healthier and they no longer need them, maybe that's not what they want. But I'm going to say that most doctors are probably overworked, underpaid when you really look at all that they do in the course of a day, that having a little bit more freedom or ability to help others would be a good thing. So let's invest in the ways you build this relationship. Number one, I want you to be thinking all the way through. Make it easy for them, make it easier for them. They're busy. They work long hours. When they're at the office, sometimes depending on what they're doing, if they're surgeons, they're going in extremely early to start surgery. If they are ER docs, they're going in at all times, and shifts are long sometimes. And, that wreaks havoc on their family lives. Make it easy for them to do something with you. So keep this in mind through every step. Make the relationship with you public by inviting them over. I mean, isn't that what you would do if somebody new moved to town, a new next door neighbor, or you wanted to make a friend or have that first date, sealing the deal for the next second date? Invite them over. So host events and invite them. And it doesn't matter if you're talking, you have a brick and mortar, you have a studio on Main Street, or you have an online business. Invite them over. You be the host and let them see you in action. Now, this is you presenting. Maybe you're presenting something and they're just there and attending. Say, here, I'd love for you to come if you can attend. And otherwise, here's a replay of a recent presentation that I did. I think you might enjoy this. If you, go walking or jogging, you might enjoy this podcast. Something that proves yourself, something that proves you know what you're talking about, that you are someone they would feel good about referring patients to, in their case. Host events and feature them. Now, what have you done? You've really said to them, you're a credible source. You're my credible source. That may go a long ways for you. So this could be live, or this could be on your podcast, or something recorded for a virtual quote unquote TV show on your YouTube channel, depending on your business model. You could host an event, even if you are someone who does Pilates in your basement. You don't have to have people come to your basement. What you can do is use a space. Ask if you can use the hospital cafeteria. Ask if you can use the sanctuary in the back of the church, a meeting room, in a public space. Often libraries have public meeting rooms for rent or for use by residents. So look for places, but you're the host. You're going to be in charge of inviting everybody, sending materials out, posting signs, and inviting your guest, who's the physician, and you're going to decide the topic and take care of all of that. Offer to do a lunch and learn for the doc and their office you go in and do it. Now you would take the sandwiches, right? Or the soup or the whatever. But you do this just like a pharmaceutical rep would do. And that's how they woo them to use their pharmaceuticals. But you can go in and do a lunch and learn for their office, if it's local to you, or possibly do it virtually. And, this is a way for them, again, to see you in action, but now you're giving them something. Do it for them, not as if they're patients, but do it in a way that you're educating everybody who's in that room who may need to know what it is that you are sharing. Contact the doctor with a professional letter or email, depending, and make sure you get a response. So the second part of this is call the office. Call the physician. They practice somewhere. There's a phone number and you can find it. There are ways for you to be sleuthing online and sources that you can use to find contact information for just about anyone. When you call the office, follow up. When you send an email or a letter, they get lost, they get into spam, they get into trash. So follow up. Don't assume they're ignoring you. Potentially, they just didn't see it. Listen, I have so many things coming into my inbox that I don't respond to the things I want to respond to. I'm missing a lot right now. And I think we're all only getting busier and busier and busier, and things are exploding. Be sure you follow up. If you left a message, maybe you left a message with a service or someone else, but messages get lost. So offer to train them. Here's another one, right? So offer to either train them or coach them based on what you do, if that service supports them in any way. Now, you might work with women in midlife who need support for bone density. You could still train a male physician who happens to work with and see a lot of patients who are females in midlife, and be able to transfer your knowledge, the way you build rapport, demonstrating it to him will be very applicable to him being more likely to refer to you. All right. So there's some just freebies, low-hanging fruit on how to get this ball rolling. But let me give you this. Over the last 40 years, I've been in numerous positions on different sides of the desk, or the bench press, if you will. And I've been in a position where I've worked at a university teaching core courses for undergraduates, and then finally watching them do their internship right before graduation. I have been in a position where I have hired and trained and fired fitness instructors, personal trainers. I have been in a position where I've been the manager, and we have hosted interns from different university, watching what they came in knowing, what they thought they needed to know and do, and where they really lacked their skills. And during all of that time, I've also seen trainers on my staff I had about 20 prior to leaving or doing my exit. And we wanted them to establish relationships with physicians. And, here's how some of these things went bad. Number one, there's no follow-up. So we heard this, honestly, last week at URSA. I heard a couple of different things, and I heard it from both sides. So I happened to be sitting on a panel with a couple of physicians and talking with a couple of physicians later that day that, had reached out to trainers, somebody who owned a facility, and said, I would come in. And the trainer or facility studio owner didn't respond back. And on the flip side, I've had trainers reach out and send letters to physicians and try and get in contact with them. I personally have done this many times, starting in the late 80s before many other people were doing it. And a lot of times it's crickets. There's no response. Nobody took you up on it. But what you don't know is, did they ever even see it? Did it actually get through? Did it get lost? Did it get shuffled? Did a nurse, a physician, another physician, a colleague, just shuffle that paper under something and it got lost, misplaced? And then finally, if it was ever located, it got thrown away because it was long overdue or long past. There are so many reasons why someone may not have gotten that message, but there's no follow up. You will never know. Don't take you don't know for an answer. It doesn't mean no, right? They simply didn't respond yet. So you have to find out, is it a yes or a no? And really, no hopefully means no, not right now. Don't breach confidentiality. Look, this is a big one. This is a big concern of physicians in working with anyone anyway. Because of HIPAA compliance, they can't disclose patient information without that patient, the medical release form. So one of the only ways that sometimes this relationship actually gets built is trainers or health coaches actually volunteer to go to an appointment, a doctor's appointment with their client. So I say client because from our side, that's what it is, patient when it's a doctor. But, not everybody has that kind of time. Like, you're going to book an appointment when it's convenient for you. I don't know if I can go drop everything to go with you. But wouldn't that be great if it's telemedicine? That makes it a little bit better, doesn't it? But we cannot breach confidentiality. And here's an example of where it was breached. Let's say you live in a fairly small community, small enough that the area you work in at least feels like a small community. Let's say in your system, in your database, you know that you have a physician who's worked with a client that you are currently working with. And that client has mentioned that they've worked with you as their physician, and you have a question about what it is that they should do, or if it's okay to do a certain thing. Should you or shouldn't you contact that individual, that doctor, from your database contact information? And I hope that you are adamantly right now saying, no, hell no, because that's absolutely right. I've had a trainer do this. So in a facility where there was, thousands of members, the physician wasn't someone actually working with any one of our personal trainers, but this physician was the foot doctor for one of our personal training clients. Our personal trainer got the contact information from our front desk membership staff, the customer service, and then contacted them directly. Highly, highly illegal. I mean, that's not the best word to use in this case, but the physician was red in the face by the time they got done reading me the riot act, and I was equally red in the face on the other side of the phone. He was beyond belief. The trainer, of course, was reprimanded. It didn't even think, and realized she hadn't thought about this, but just was so small town in her thinking, and there's no better term than to say that. But that kind of thing will alienate you with physicians for a long time to come. Word will travel fast. Nobody will want to touch you, because if you will do something like that, what else wouldn't you do? What else might you disclose in terms of confidentiality? And trainers who keep files in somewhere other than a locked cabinet where anybody else has access to them as well. That again is a breach of confidentiality. So, another mistake to make, lack of specific call to action. So let's say you're reaching out to a physician, but you don't know exactly what it is you're asking for. I give you a few things, reach out, say, I'd love to, create a relationship with you. We have a lot of your patients, people who mention that they've worked with you. And, we know that there might be a potential here for us to help people together and for us to refer to you some of the people that we see who are dealing with this condition, and wonder if some of the patients that you're working with are actually in need of exercise guidance but don't know where to start or lack the motivation to start. That's a very broad, we'd love to explore this. But one of the things that we had in mind is, bringing a little bit more light into the matter. So if you were talking about osteoporosis, for instance, I'd love to talk a little bit more about some of the newer pieces of research, the ways of better identifying not just bone status, but whether someone might still be leaking bone density or losing bone density, ways of testing that you might know of, and, talking also about new discoveries that we've found in terms of exercise and the benefits of very specific exercises, how soon, how much, how often, those kinds of things. We'd love to do a presentation including you and would love to feature you. Would you like to be a guest speaker? So you could either host them, say, we'd love for you to come in, be a little bit of, say, an advisory board. Listen to the talk. We would love you to give your feedback afterward. Love to know if there's a way that we could explore, just a good relationship, so that if we identify clients we're working with who are not necessarily working with a physician that they love, if we could refer to you. And if you're working with patients who need an exercise program, if you are able to refer to us or would like to know a little bit more about the program we offer for people who are dealing with that. That's a specific ask in both cases. So you're asking them to be a part of it. What you're doing there is putting your relationship out there, right? But if you don't have a specific call to action, like what is the purpose of your ask? What do you want to happen from it? Then the conversation gets a little awkward about what do we do next? Where does this go next? Right. So it's like that awkward moment at the door when somebody drops you off or you drop them off. Are you going to kiss them or not kiss them? Is there another date or not? I'll call you. I'll text you. What is it? So you also might lack the specific way that they win. So never forget, you have to let them know, why do they want to do this? They're busy, they're overworked, they have too little time with each patient they see the way it is. Why do they want to spend time doing this with you? What's in it for them? So make sure you're thinking about what's in it for them. And are you a specialist, whether it's a Flipping 50 menopause fitness specialist or something else? What are you a specialist in? And what you want to ask is, does that serve a lot of their patients? So if we're talking osteoporosis, osteopenia, the answer is absolute, hands down, yes, right? And you're helping people build bone density and understand what is the training protocol, what is the strength training protocol that's going to give you ultimately the best results. What does that look like? Absolutely, right? You can do, a relationship with that. If you help something like fibromyalgia, fewer fibromyalgia patients probably come in. So that's going to be a harder sell. You can, that might be a part of it. but the broad stroke being osteoporosis, osteopenia, and we can also help those of your patients who not only have that, but also have rheumatoid or osteoarthritis. So they're dealing with, what do I do to help this that won't be a negative toward this, or fibromyalgia? So thinking about where's the broadest sweep that the majority of their patients are going to benefit from. And also, now you can go down, because we've worked with patients or clients with fibromyalgia, with rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, pre joint rehab, before joint replacement, or post rehab, and mention the other things that you've worked with. Have you worked with people with Parkinson's in the past? So any number of things could fall in there, and it's the opportunity. But when we're talking about osteoporosis, we're talking about just about every woman is going to be concerned about that. And, right now we're dealing with GLP-1, we're dealing with obesity, and looking at, can you relay information in a way that feels very direct to this issue of obesity, and looking at helping you have patient success by helping them not lose their lean muscle tissue while they're doing it. Have a coach to do the heavy lifting between their sessions with you, their appointments with you. So have a good thought process before you go into a meeting. And this may be a huge benefit to you in developing that relationship. Doctors are looking for somebody qualified. They don't lift weights, many of them themselves. And if they do, it's probably not been a pastime in the same way it has been for you and I. There are a very limited number of physicians who are maybe also chiropractors, who started their career early in sports medicine. That's minimal. The rest of physicians had about 2 hours of nutrition, even less of exercise science. Some of them never even talked about menopause during their entire education. That 8-year all-inclusive residency didn't even mention menopause. So they don't know what they don't know. And you may have a little bit more information about it, but it's our job, it's our role to actually approach this with a great deal of respect as we're in these conversations. And remembering that, above all, if we want to develop a relationship, it's about what's in it for them. I hope that was helpful. All right. You'll find the show notes for this one at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/relationships with medical professionals. And what are you waiting for? The world needs us right now more than ever.